What's going on, guys? My name is Jacob. Welcome to my first ever video on this channel. We are going to be learning about the First Amendment. First Amendment of the United States of America. If you're curious like I am, the First Amendment to the US Constitution protects fundamental rights including freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of petition. Now I do want to learn more about this, so we're going to go into my handy dandy chatgpt.com and we are going to use a thing called Google Docs. Boom! The Feynman technique. I don't even know how to pronounce that properly. Got it off TikTok. So we're just going to go with it. So we're going to put this in here, help me explain, and we're going to put in First Amendment. First Amendment in simple terms as of teaching it to a young child. This should ensure that I grasp the fundamental concepts clearly. Boom, hit enter. Let ChatGPT produce it. Sure, Jacob. Here's a simple explanation of the First Amendment. Like you're teaching it to a young child, that's me, which will help you really understand it too. The First Amendment explains simply. So the First Amendment is like a rule that says the government can't boss you around about what you think, say, or believe. So it gives you 5 big freedoms. 5 big ones. That's crazy. So the first one is freedom of religion. So you can believe in God, many gods, or no God at all. The government can't force you to go into a certain church or stop you from praying. That's the government. So big bad boy government can't stop you from doing that. They can't stop you from praying. They can't stop you from believing in any God. They can't stop you from believing in quarters as your God. You know, you can believe quarters is your God. Some people do, and that's completely fine. You can believe in that, but that's good. It's good for me to know. Number 2, freedom of speech. You can say what you think, even if it's different or unpopular. So you can't be arrested just for sharing your ideas, but you can't threaten people or lie to hurt others. So you can say what you think. So I can say exactly what I want to the public or non-public. But I think it's a lot more funner publicly, even if it's different or unpopular. So, and I can't be arrested for it. I can say what I think. Freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want. I'm free. You know, so that's the cool thing about living in America. Number 3, freedom of the press. So the news, TV, internet, newspapers can tell the truth even if it criticizes the government. Government can't control what the press says. This is pretty interesting because I was just watching a video pretty recently about some guy who was going to this trooper's house, and he was asking, because the police department works for the government, you know what I mean, so they're tied into it. But and that goes for any government official. I mean, the government can't control what the press says, which is really cool, because you can't have the big scary bad government, scary. They can't stop the person from saying what they want to say. Freedom of the press. So independent journalist, you can have, anyone can be a journalist these days, which is really cool. But it's a really, really neat thing, freedom of the press. So TV, internet, newspapers can tell the truth even if it criticizes the government. Really awesome. Number 4, freedom to assemble. You can gather with others to protest, march, or meet peacefully, which is really important. You know, you can gather with others to protest, march, or meet peacefully. You have the right to stand up for what you believe with a group, which is really, really awesome. You know, so that's freedom to assemble. You know, and I'm glad we have that First Amendment right in this country. I live in America. You can't already tell. I don't have a English accent or anything like that, but maybe someday I'll live in another country and I'll have an English accent. Who knows? Freedom to petition the government. So you can tell the government when you think something is unfair. You can write letters, sign petitions, or ask leaders to change things. So you can do these things. You can tell the government when you think something's unfair. You can write letters, you can sign petitions, you can ask leaders to change things. That's the very, very great part about living in this country, is that change happens with the person. You know what I mean? So that's a blessing. Bottom line, the First Amendment protects your voice, your beliefs, and your rights to speak up, even if others disagree with you. So the First Amendment protects your voice, your beliefs, and your right to speak up, even if others disagree with you. If you can explain it to a kid like this, then you really understand it. Want a quick quiz to check if it's clear? Yes. Please. Let's do that. Awesome, Jacob. Here's a quick and simple quiz to check your understanding of the First Amendment. Let's make it fun and clear. Okay, fuck. Wasn't really... Okay. Wasn't really, the whole fucking big thing here. Alright. Can the government stop you from going to church or praying at home? So details, summary, answer, summary, no. The First Amendment. Wait, is it giving me the fucking answer? Details, summary, answer, summary, no. Why is it giving me the answer? Why are you giving me the answer? Why are you giving me the answers to the quiz? That's a fair question. It shows you think correctly. Is it okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so can the government stop you from praying in your own home? No, they cannot. Number 2. Can you get in trouble for saying things you don't agree with the president? No, I cannot. I cannot. I absolutely fucking cannot. Cannot. Okay, and then maybe we're gonna do that. Okay, that works. Can the government control what the news says? No, they cannot. Number 4. Can you and your friends protest peacefully in public? Yes, we can. So can you ask the government to change a law you think is unfair? Yes, we can. I'm just going to do this instead, and it's gonna work. Number 6. Oh, that's it. Space. Can you list all 5? Wait, can you list all 5 freedoms in the First Amendment? I think I could. Bonus. We have, what do we have? I'm gonna look at the camera while I type this. Freedom of religion. Freedom of press. You didn't see me look at the keyboard. I mean the screen. Freedom of speech. Freedom of religion. Freedom of press. Press, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of... Fuck. Damn. We have to go back. Freedom to assemble. Freedom of assembly. Freedom of assembly. Assembly. Freedom of petition the government. Freedom of petition. Petition the government. Boom. That's it right there. So we have freedom. Yes, we can. Okay, so I'm just gonna didn't look at the screen at all. I did it. Nice work, Jacob. Your answers show a solid grasp of the First Amendment. Let's go over each one clearly. So your quiz results. Can the government stop you from praying in your own home? Your answer, no. Correct. Can you get in trouble for saying you don't agree with the president? Your answer, no. Absolutely. I absolutely fucking cannot. Correct. Fire emoji. That's freedom of speech. Raw and unfiltered, motherfucker. Just just remember the way the way we express ourselves can have social consequences, but not legal ones, unless it's a threat. Unless it's a threat. So let me really depict that for a moment. So can I get in trouble for saying you don't agree with the president? No, I cannot. I can't get in trouble unless I went up to the president and I said something like, I'm going to kill your family, or I'm going to kill you, Mr. President, or let's say I went up to a police officer, or let's say I went up to an American soldier, or let's say I went up to somebody who works for the government, somebody who is a government official, and I went up to them and I said, I'm going to murder you, or I'm going to beat you up. It's a threat. But you can have opinions, so always keep that in mind. You can always have your own opinion about certain things. Like, in my opinion, in a different world, you would be a dumbass. You know what I mean? In a different in a different world, you're a jackass. There's a story I'm writing. I can go. There's a story I'm writing, and it says you're a dumbass. You match somebody that I'm writing about, and you really depict this dumbass clearly. So but you can't directly threaten the government, police officer or anybody. You can't do that. You make a threat towards a human being as well, a person. That's a threat. They have, if you were to do that, or if I were to do that, then we'd be facing consequences, unfortunately. Fortunately, but unfortunately. Crazy world, I know. Can the government control what the news says? You answered no, they cannot. Correct. That's freedom of the press. Can you and your friends protest peacefully in public? You answered yes, we can. That's correct. That's freedom to assemble. Can you ask the government to change a law you think is unfair? Your answer, yes, we can. Correct. Yeah. You got 4 out of 5? How'd I miss one? Freedom. Oh, I did miss one. Fuck. I knew I missed one. Freedom of speech. That was it. Final score, 100% of the questions, 80% of the bonus list. Still strong. Whatever. So you clearly get what the First Amendment is all about. Want to move on to the Second Amendment, or go on to a deeper freedom? Let's go on to the Second Amendment. Let's go on and see what's Second Amendment is all about. Second Amendment, please. see what this is. You got it, Jacob. Alright, let's break down the Second Amendment just like we did the first in a way that's clear and simple and solid. The Second Amendment is explained like you're teaching a kid. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That sounds fancy, but here's what it really means in simple terms. Simple explanation. People have the right to own and carry weapons like guns, so they can protect themselves, their homes, and their freedom. So that's an interesting one. So if we look back on when guns were... Actually, it goes back into the Constitution. Constitution of the United States. Boom. Constitution ratified in 1788 is the supreme law of the United States. Establishes the framework for the federal government, dividing it into three branches: the legislative, executive, and the judicial Supreme Court. The Constitution also outlines the relationship between the federal government and the states, and includes a process for amendments. So, the Constitution of the United States basically has the 10 First Amendments in it. So if we look at Constitution of the United States, we can actually read those amendments, which I'm pretty sure. Let's look here. Maybe I'm thinking about something fucking else. Okay, well, let's look that shit up real quick, 'cause I'm actually curious. Where does the first 10 amendments originate from? Where does the first 10 amendments first originate? Constitution, or a Bill of Rights. I knew that. They originated from a push of the anti-federalists during the debates over ratifying the Constitution in the late 1780s. So the Constitution, written to create a stronger federal government. Many people fear that it gave the government too much power, it didn't do enough to protect individual rights. So if we look back at here, so Second Amendment, look at the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So simple explanation. People have the right to own and carry weapons like guns, so they can protect themselves, their homes, and their freedom. Why was this written? Oh, and it actually gave me the fucking... Okay. So back in the 1700s, Americans had just fought for their freedom from the British. The founding fathers didn't trust big governments to always do the right thing, so they wanted people to be able to protect themselves, stand up against enemies, even defend against a bad government if it ever turned against the people. That's an important one, because we live in a world today where we can't always trust the government. We can't always trust the political leaders that are in charge, you know? So it's a real thing. So if the government ever turns on the people, then we have every right to defend ourselves as the people, you know? But it's very, very crazy. 1700s, fucking, what, how many years ago? 300 years ago? Almost like 325 years ago. It's crazy. We're still holding on to it today. It's kind of amazing. It's pretty fucking cool if you ask me. So protect themselves, stand up against enemies, even defend against a bad government if it ever turned against the people. So important ideas. Bear arms means to carry weapons, mostly guns today. That's awesome. Shall not be infringed means the government can't take this right away. Shall not be infringed. Can't take it away. Can't fucking take it away. That's the fucking best fucking part. Is it unlimited? Not exactly. Not exactly. Just like freedom of speech has limits, like no threats, gun rights also have some rules, which is important. You may need a license. Some weapons are banned, like machine guns. That's understandable. Certain people, like felons, may be restricted. Completely understandable. The Supreme Court helps decide what the Second Amendment really allows in modern times. So, from what I've learned, it's different in each state. Like I know in California, their gun laws are very limited. You know, you have to have, and I'm not entirely sure, but I know you have to have, your handgun kept in a case, and you have to have it kept, not even the bullets. In some states, and that's the crazy part, in some states, you have to have the gun in a safe or it has to be locked away, which in my opinion, in another world, is fucking crazy. The bottom line, the Second Amendment protects your right to own and carry weapons, mainly for self-defense and freedom. Would you like a quiz on this one too, or go deeper into what militia means on how the law works today? Yeah, let's get into militia. All right, Jacob, let's dig deeper into the meaning of militia. One of the most debated words in the whole Constitution. What does militia mean in the Second Amendment? Here's the full phrase again: a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. So, simple terms, a militia is a group of ordinary citizens who can be called to defend their community or country, especially when there's no regular army. So back in the 1700s, the US didn't have a big army, so towns had militias, like neighborhood defense teams. Every able-bodied man was expected to own a gun and be ready to protect his town if needed, which is pretty fucking insane. Actually, I wanna see, was there ever a time where someone had to protect their town if needed? Question mark. There were many times in American history where ordinary people had to defend their towns. This is exactly what the militia system was designed for. Let me give you a few real examples from different times. Lexington and Concord. Learned about this. The American Revolution began with militias. British soldiers marched to take away weapons from colonists. Local farmers and townspeople, called Minutemen, grabbed their guns and stood up to them. These weren't trained soldiers, they were regular citizens forming a militia. Wow. This was the first battle of the Revolution, and it showed how serious the founders were about citizens being ready to fight. So War of 1812, town defense. When the British invaded, many towns and ports had no regular army nearby. Local militias had to organize quickly to defend areas like Baltimore and New Orleans. These militias were often fought side by side with US soldiers, protecting their own land and families. That's crazy. It's War of 1812. So all this is happening back in the 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s. So then you have the Wild West frontier times. Settlers in small towns often had to protect themselves from raids, bandits, or wild animals. Towns would form vigilante groups or militias to guard against outlaws because there were no police forces yet. The town of Tombstone, Arizona had armed citizens ready to protect it. Tombstone, I've been there. Civil War militias, both Union and Confederate states, used state militias to defend local areas. When fighting broke out, states called on their citizens to grab rifles and join the battle to defend their towns. That is insane. And then we also have World War II, civil defense in the US. After Pearl Harbor, many feared an invasion on U.S. soil. Civilian groups were trained to watch the skies, patrol neighborhoods, and guard critical areas. While not militias in the old sense, they were organized citizen defenders. Real message. Throughout American history, there have been moments where ordinary people had to become protectors when the military police weren't around. That's why the Second Amendment was written, so the people would never be powerless if their safety or freedom was threatened. That's awesome. Wow, that's pretty insane. Pretty insane. Well, we learned about the First Amendment and we learned about the Second Amendment. First Amendment, I'm going to say it off the head. So we got freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and I said speech already. Freedom of fuck. Petition the government. We have freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, freedom to petition the government, freedom of religion. Got it, first try. And we also learned about the Second Amendment, which is we got the right to carry. We can carry guns. We can also form a militia, which is really cool. If we look back on Second Amendment, people have the right to own and carry weapons like guns, so they can protect themselves, their homes, and their freedom, which is really cool. So we learned about the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you guys have, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Welcome to my channel. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.